Hello everyone, welcome to the video. Today in this tutorial 3 we will be upgrading our timer and our stopwatch that we are building with Arduino. And so basically in this video we're going to be upgrading to where now that we add two more pages, which one is the timer page and one is the stopwatch page on our project. So that's basically what we are doing in this video. So if you haven't looked at the circuit yet, it is right here. But also if you want to understand how it works and how it's set up and why it's set up that way, consider going back to the past tutorials, the other two past tutorials that I've explained it. We're just going to go right to our code because we have changed some things after we changed it a bit, since now we have added two more pages. So things are starting to get kind of big in our code here. And so in the past tutorials, I've explained pretty much all of this from down here. We have some new variables in our struct. And so basically the three variables that we have is a num page. Since we have multiple different pages now, this variable is going to be holding what number of page we are in. Page 0 is the main page, which has an option to go to timer and stopwatch. Then page 1 is the timer, and then page 2 is the stopwatch. And so basically here we have time MSG. This will be holding the time that's the timer or the stopwatch will be counting with. And so basically we have three slots in here. One slot for the hour, the second slot for the minutes, and the third slot for the seconds. So it's all going to be stored in this array. So then we have go back. So this is going to be a true or false value. So basically this is going to tell the Arduino if we should go back to the main page. So whenever we do, the button reader function will bring this variable to true, telling us that we want to go back to the main page. So that's what we do here. So then also we change something here. We do another my data and we do default db, because as we go through these pages we may want to reset bd again. Okay, and then also the void setup is all the same, so we're just going to go past that. Then we go to the void loop and we go ahead and we change the lot. We just have a switch state in here basically, because even page 1 is in its separate function. So basically what we do is we do switch bd dot num page. So we're going to look at num page and we're going to see if it's equal to 0. So if num page is equal to 0, that means we should be on the first page. And so it's going to go ahead and make bd equal to default bd, and it's going to go to page 1. And we're going to see this function, page 1, in a few minutes. I just want to explain all this. So basically this is going to bring us to page 1, and the LCD display will go to page 1. But if num page is 1, for example, which is page 1, which means the timer, then we're going to go to here, this case statement, and we're going to set bd equal to default bd, and then we're going to go to page 2. If num page is equal to 2, then we'll go to page 3. And so that's how we go to all the pages. And then anything else, we just go into default and breakout. We don't want to do anything else. And so now we'll go ahead and we'll go to page 1 right here. So page 1 is somewhat similar to the past of how the main page was. But now we have, of course, the function. And then we have a while loop in this function. The Arduino terminator will be in this while loop as long as we are inside of page 1. And it will do all the functionality that page 1 is responsible to doing, which is just responsible to try to figure out which one we want, if we want timer or stopwatch. So the first thing we do is, as before, we do bd button reader. This function is basically the same as last tutorials. There's something minor changed about it. I will show you that later, but basically everything is basically the same in this function. And of course all this is the same as well. We just go to page 1 printer. We are going to go ahead and pass through all of this because we have already explained this. And now we can go to here. This statement is testing to see if button 2 has been pressed and let go fully. Whenever we press button 2, then that means we want to go and see which label the selector is pointing at, because that label is where the page we want to go to. We can see here if this is true, if we have fully pressed and let go of the button, then we come in here and see where the selector is pointing. So if selector pos is 1, then we want to go to page 1. So we go ahead and do a bd num page 1. We make that equal to 1, and then we break out of this, which means we break out of this whole while loop and get out of this function, which is page 1 overall. We get out of that function. And same goes with the 2 as well. So if selector pos is equal to 2, which is page 2, which is stopwatch, then we're going to make it equal to num page 2. And we'll break out of the function. And so then what we're going to do is once it breaks out of this function, then it's going to go back to here and num page is still going to be equal to the values that we set it here, right here, because we returned BD. So we're going to go back and we're going to check again what BD num page is equal to now. All right, so now we'll go to page 2. Basically, I haven't actually fully made page 3. We're not going to be explaining, just a little bit of code just to get it to work and print something onto page 3. So I haven't really worked much about it, so I'm not going to explain all of it. I'm just going to explain this page 2 because this is the first page that we have worked on, and so basically this is just going to display how the timer page is going to look. And so basically we do the exact same thing as we did with the main page, page 1. We do while true, which just keeps us in this page, and then we just read the buttons consistently. And then also we do the exact same thing that we did before. We come into this statement every half a second, which is 500 milliseconds. So we detect with last millis 2 how long we have been out of this if statement. So we do millis minus last millis 2. So last millis 2 is holding the value of millis we were at when we were in this if statement last time. And minus the millis, this value right here, will give us the whole amount of time that we have been out of this if statement. And if it's greater than 500 milliseconds, then we come into this statement and we go to a page 2 printer. So this is the function that helps us print everything on the page for page 2. So we're going to look at that function in a few minutes. And so yeah, as we do down here, we just go ahead and do last millis equals to millis to set the newest value of millis that we were currently at when we were in this if statement. So we know when we should come back into this whole if statement again. And then it works just the same thing as the main page. As if we press button 1, we will go through the selector. So first, the selectors are not going to be blinking because selector puz is going to be at 0. But as we press button 1, then the selectors will start pulling up to the one that's on the far left corner, which is the hours. So it's going to start pointing at the hours number. And then once you press again, then it's going to start pointing at the minutes and then the seconds. And so basically that is determined by this if statement right here. So if on or off, basically telling us if the button has been fully pressed or not. Okay, so basically that's what this if statement is doing. And so basically what we do is we do on or off 1, which this variable is going to be true or false. It's going to be true if we are fully pressed and let go of the button. And so in this case, if it's true, then we'll come into this statement. If it's false, then we're not going to come into this statement. So whenever it's true, which means we have pressed and let go of the button fully, then we come in here and we do if BD selector puz is less than 3. So basically, as long as this is less than 3, then we can increment the selector position variable again. And that's what we do in here. We just increment it. And also, I just put this in here for debugging issues and I forgot to take it out. But anyways, but if this is false, which means selector puz is at 3, then we want to come into this else statement because selector position, it shouldn't be any higher than 3 because we only have 3 elements that we can blink at, which is hours, minutes, and seconds. No more than that we can't. We don't have any other options. So we have to go ahead, and if this is not true, we have to go ahead and come into this else statement and make it equal to 0. Basically starting it all over, which then would just make it so no blank goes on, and then if we press button 1 again, then we'll turn back on to the first one, which is hours. And so basically that's how this works. Then we have if bd dot go back equals to true. So this is a Boolean value. It could be false if we shouldn't be going back. It'll be true if we should go back. So what we do is we go ahead and do dot go back false. So we're just setting go back to false, which probably isn't really necessary. So I just go ahead and take it out. All right, so then we come into here and we do while bd dot on or off 1 equals to false, or bd on or off 2 equals false. And then continue going in this code. And I've done a lot of serial.prints here as well for debugging issues as well. I'm going to take these out as well. And we come in here and we're going to see, and we're going to wait until both of these on or off is equal to true. All right. So we're going to continue looping this while loop until both of these are true. And so they're both going to stay, if one turns true and the other one turns true later on, then we will come out of this while loop. But if one's true and the other one has stayed false, we will stay in this statement until they both become true. And you're going to see why. Because let's say, for example, we're on the timer page and we want to go back. How we can go back is we press both of the buttons at the same time. And so when both of the buttons are pressed at the same time, button reader will detect if we're pressing both buttons at the same time. When it does, it will send the go back variable to true. And whenever that's true, we'll come into this if statement. And this is going to happen so quickly that we will most likely be still pressing these two buttons when we come into this statement. And so we want to stay in this if statement until we let go of these buttons. And so all we do in this while loop is we just continue reading button reader to wait until they both become true. And then we break out of the whole while loop, which brings us back to the main page whenever we do our return of BD. So now we can go over to a button reader, and so all we have done here is we just did if BD dot button 1 new equals 0 and BD dot button 2 new equals 0. Basically, if they equal 0 both at the same time, then we set go back equal to true. And so basically that's everything that has been changed. And then we go to here to page 2 printer, and we have basically done the same type of formatting that we have done for a page 1 printer. And so what we have done is we just printed the main thing on what the whole page, how it's going to be structured. So first we just clear the whole LCD display, get all the old information off, and then we go ahead and do set cursor to 5, which is column 5. So we're going to bring cursor all the way to column 5, row 0. So this is going to be on the first row and column 5. So timer is going to be somewhat in the middle of the LCD display on the top. And then we come here and do LCD set cursor to, okay, so we're going to column 2, row 1, which is the second row. Then we go ahead and do lcd.print BD timer message 0. So basically this is going to get the first time out of the array timer MSG, which will be the hours. So at first, right now, all these are going to be 0 right here. As you see, we print all of them out, and we kind of spread them out among the page. So we print the hours, and then here we set the cursor, set where we want it to be on the LCD display, and then we print the minutes. We set the cursor again to where we want it to be on the LCD display, and then we print the seconds. So they're all separated a little bit, so they're spaced apart. And so then all this right here is responsible to detect if we should be blinking a cursor next to one of these numbers. So in this case, we come in here and say bd.selector on or off. So this will tell us if the selector should be turned on or off. So if it's true, then we should be turned on. If it's false, then it should be turned off. So in this case, if it's true, that means we should be turning on, and then we come into this if statement and we go to the switch statement, which is bd.selector position. So we're using selector position again to determine where our selectors need to be. And we do case 1. So if it's 1, then that means we want to be pointing at the hours, which is the first thing that we should be pointing at on the page. So that's what we do. We do set cursor to column 1 to row 1. This is where the cursor will be starting at. This is where it's going to be put. Then we have the ending greater than symbol. We want to print that, and this is where it's going to be put at this position of the LCD display right here with set cursor. So then after we have done that, then we come out of this case statement. And so now if the selector position is equal to 2, then we do the exact same thing, but the positions are changed differently because this is for the minutes, and we should be pointing the selectors at the minutes. And the same thing with 3. So if selector position is equal to 3, then we go ahead and do the exact same thing, but this time the less than and greater than symbol is going to be next to the second number. So as you can see, we have a column 11, row 1, and so on for the greater than symbol as well. And then we come in here and do default, and we just break out. We don't do anything with it really. So we just come out of this whole if statement, and we have all this comment out code, which I had before. It's not very important either. And then we just make selector on off equal to not selector on off. So this is going to make selector equal to the opposite that it was, so that every other time we turn the selector on, and then we turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, and we do that so on, and then we return it back to the function that we were currently at. Okay, and so if this is false, then we're not going to do anything. We're not going to print any of these selectors, and we're just going to leave the stuff that we have already printed on the LCD display to how it is. And so basically that's the code. And so now we can go ahead and look at the project in action. Okay, so now here's the project, and as you can see, right when we start the project, we are on the main page, which has the message timer and stopwatch. So all you have to do is press this button, And as you can see, the selector starts blinking. We have seen this in our last tutorial, and so the only page that we have made in this tutorial is the page for the timer. So the selector is pointing at the timer, so now all we have to do is go ahead and press the second button to tell us that we want to go to the timer page. And this is the timer page, which just says timer, and then it has this is the hours, the minutes, and then the seconds. So all we have to do is, if in the future we would be able to go through and change these based on how long we want the timer to last. So for example, I can press this and the selector starts blinking the hours, which in the future we will make to where we can start incrementing this number to the amount of time that we want the timer to have, how many hours we want the timer to have. Then we press it again and it goes to minutes. Then we can press the second button in the future and start incrementing the minutes. And same with the seconds, and then press it again and it goes back. And so then to go back to the main page, we just have to press both of these buttons at the same time. So that's what I'm going to do. And then we let go, we're at the main page again. And so basically that is the project. If you like this video, consider giving this video a like. Also comment down below if you have any questions, and consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all and have a great day. Bye.